The Tigers rally late? No, I'm just playing. Lost 9-3 though. The hands of the Seattle Mariners. Let's talk about it today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Wednesday, August 31st, 2022. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. All righty. Tigers drop Tuesday night's series opener against Seattle by a score of 9-3. They do so in Comerica Park. Two of the furthest non-Miguel Cabrera home runs I think I've maybe ever seen. JD Martinez probably in that mix too, but probably ever seen in Copa. Hey, I mean, those were a couple of moonshots. There was one hit to probably the deepest part of the entire ballpark, especially for a right-handed hitter. Like probably the deepest part of the park there, that right where the out-of-town scoreboard and the center field wall meet, but in the bushes above that. That's for a righty. I would imagine that's probably the deepest part of the entire park. 434 feet, something like that. And then another one that was hit. Do you remember when during the pandemic season when we signed CJ Cron, and CJ Cron hit a home run and everybody was freaking out about it because they were like, oh my goodness, look how far, like, CJ Cron has serious power. Look how crazy far that went. That's what the second one that went, I think, also like 434, 435 feet. That's what that one felt like. It was like in that territory. We're like up against, like, left center field, up against the like around where the jersey numbers, retirement numbers are. Goodness, that escaped me. But yeah, Matt Manning started this game. We might as well just start with that, get that kind of out of the way at the beginning, because that's definitely the biggest storyline of the game. That and the offense continuing, to no surprise to anyone, reverting back to being not good. I don't think anyone expected what happened over the weekend to be sustained. But nonetheless, Matt Manning did start this game, and he has been a big bright spot this season when healthy. Obviously, everybody on this team, every pitcher on this team has been hurt for at least a little bit, but Manning has been phenomenal this year when healthy. And his last start, I mean, we talked about maybe his last two starts are easily the best two-start stretch of his career, and arguably two of the best starts in his career, I thought, based on stuff and just how he was executing pitches and stuff. But this one was certainly not the case. Yeah, he goes 2 1/3, 7 hits, 7 earned runs, 1 walk, and 1 strikeout. The biggest thing for this one was the slider fooled no one. And we talked last start about how he had a slider, but he was kind of using it like two different ways. Like, he would use the slider as a slider, but then sometimes he would use the slider as a cutter. In this game, it didn't matter what he was using it as. It was not affected, and it was crushed, especially just after the first inning, right? Like second and third inning, really clearly did not go very well for him with the slider. The average exit velocity on his slider was 100 miles an hour. It got put in play 6 times, and the average exit velo on the slider was 100 for the outing. Definitely not great. He threw it 18 times, only had 1 whiff on it, only 1 called strike on it. Really not great. I mean, I got, like, the CSW percentage was 15%. I guess I can tell you that, but it's not really that important when you have that poor of an outing, and it's pretty assumed that it's not going to be very good. He just, the slider fooled nobody. And in the first inning, like I said, he was kind of still like sometimes he was using it kind of as more of a cutter, and then sometimes he'd throw it low and away and try to have like more break on it. Once he got into the second and especially the third inning, obviously, I mean, there was one point where he was throwing like every slider he threw, whether it was in the strike zone or not in the strike zone, was just getting deposited into the outfield. Like there was no, he was fooling no one. That's really the way to put it. He was not fooling anyone with the pitch. Um, I mean, he was even like missing spots he'd miss low, and it would still just the shape of it was not great. And in his last start, I thought it had really good bite to it, and in this start, I just didn't. It really hung up there. It kind of had more of a shape wise. It didn't seem to have a bite at the break. It just kind of like lofted up there and then like slowly lofted back down. I don't know. Kind of hard to explain, I guess, with words, but it didn't have the bite that it usually has. That's probably the best way I can put it. And it was a really, really poor outing. And I mean, clearly reflected, right? 7 earned runs in a little over 2 innings. Only one strikeout, ERA up to 3.79. It was sub 3 before this outing. So clearly not headed in the right direction. But at the end of the day, it is one start. So we'll see what he can do for the remainder of the year. But this was certainly not his best outing. The rest of the pitches, I mean, he threw the fastball more than anything because the slider wasn't working. So at some point he kind of had to. Um, and I mean, it was fine. It still got hit hard sometimes, but I mean, it was okay, I guess. And I don't know, like when your best non fastball pitch is completely just removed from your repertoire and just is completely not effective. I'm not really sure what you expect. You're not going to have a lot of success, that's for sure. Through 9 curveballs, not too much success with those either. He hung one of them. He hung 2 of them actually. One of them got cranked. Both of them got ripped really hard, but one of them got absolutely cranked. Yeah, just didn't have it. The command was not very good. He was missing with the fastball. He wasn't able to hit his spots if they were inside to lefties or like up to righties. Like he was not even hitting. They would set up fastball high to try to get a swing and a miss chasing high, and he would just miss outside. Like he would just completely just open up and just the mechanics went out the window. It was just not a great outing. But like I said, it is one outing. There will be better days, hopefully, and we'll see what he can do. Because if he goes and next start goes back to being good, and the rest of of the season is solid as he was before this start, then we just look at this as an outlier and we move on with our lives and nobody cares. But given this season, it's hard to give that the benefit of the doubt. But it is just one start, and he has way more good starts than bad starts this year. So we'll see what happens. We'll get into the bullpen and then obviously the offense. But first, I got to tell you all about our friends over at BetOnline. BetOnline is your number one source for all your pro and college football betting needs this season. Find all the latest football league developments, game matchups, news, and podcasts, including this year's opening week's games. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. The fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite sports and events, including MMA, boxing, MMA, and golf. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, everybody. Welcome back here to segment 2 of Locked On Tigers. I'm your host, Scott Bentley. That's my intro. We're back. My nose is still very runny, so sorry if that's I don't know what's happening with me this summer. This is like the 3rd time this has happened this season. Not really sure why, but we're here and we're living and it's okay. So let's just get to the bullpen. I think that's a pretty natural next step here. I thought, well, I don't even know. Where do you even want to start? Because let's just go in order. Let's just go chronological. Will Vest comes out of the pen first. 2/3 of an inning, 1 hit, no earned runs to his name, 1 strikeout. He did give up a couple of runs to Matt Manning's expense. couple of inherited runners there, but only threw 10 pitches, got a strikeout. I mean, fine. The big thing continues to be with him command, just slider command, fastball command of literally everything. Jose Cisnero pitched another walk, but 2 strikeouts. I thought the stuff was some of the best I've seen it. Like the sinker was really good, and the four seam fastball was back to the velo that we're somewhat used to seeing out of him the last couple of years. So I was glad to see that. There's still some command stuff to work out, and I'm sure he'll get back into the swing of things right in time for the season end, unfortunately. But just comparing him to the last 2 years, it's just something is not clicking. It's just not the same that it was the last couple of years, even though he sits with a 1.46 ERA. Daniel Norris, then 3 innings, 3 hits, 2 earned runs, no walks, and 2 strikeouts. Uh, again, like I'm not telling you anything you don't already know about Daniel Norris. Like, I'm sorry, it's stuff has never been a problem. Command has always been a problem. That reigns true tonight and reigns true in most Daniel Norris appearances. Yeah, like I thought that the breaking ball for him especially was just not located very well at all. The four seam fastball was like he wasn't missing bats, and when the stuff was good enough to where you thought he might be missing bats, it was not located very well. Just whatever. But still had 2 strikeouts. And really in this game, like no one's really pointing the finger at Daniel Norris going, "You're the reason we lost." We're down 9-0 most of the game until a random couple of runs there at the end of the game. Jason Foley continues to be Jason Foley. I love Jason Foley. 2.76 ERA, fantastic sinker. Beauty. And then Cody Clemens pitches the final inning for the Detroit Tigers. Set him down in order. 1 inning and set him down in order. I like it a lot. Um, whatever. Like I'm so tired of watching position players pitch, and not in the sense of like people shouldn't do it. I know there's a whole crowd that is anti-position players pitching, but look, this you don't want to waste arms. What's the point in going into the bullpen and wasting a bullpen arm? I'm tired of it in the sense of we have seen it a lot because we're not good. And I'm so tired of not being good. And I'm so tired of having to watch Cody Clemens and Harold Castro pitch. I'm so tired of it. I just want a competitive baseball team. Look at that, though. 8 pitches. All the EFIS pitch is what they were all registered as. Average of 56 miles an hour for Cody Clemens on the heater, the Rocket Jr. So, I mean, fine outing by the bullpen. I mean, Daniel Norris had a couple of really bad pitches there, but for the most part, like a fine outing by the bullpen. This was like it was 7-0 after the third, right? Like this was never a game that a good bullpen showing would have saved us, and it's not a game that our good bullpen really mattered at all because at the end of the day we couldn't hit. And so looking at the offense, I mean, like the 9th inning was great, sure. I mean, we didn't get shut out. The 8th and 9th inning, I should say. We didn't get shut out. Like we scrapped together a few runs there at the end of the game, but I mean this was a pretty brutal offensive performance. And Kirby is a good pitcher. Kirby's a good pitcher, and he's gonna be in consideration. He's gonna get his name written down on some awards, on some accolades this off season for sure. 5 innings, 2 hits, no earned runs, 1 walk, and 5 Ks. He's really good. He pounds the strike zone. Pounds the strike zone, right? This is a dude that, whatever, he went viral because he started off the game with however many consecutive strikes to start off a game or whatever, last week, 2 weeks ago. He pounds the strike zone. And this team cannot hit fastballs in the strike zone. Recipe for success. That's why Joe Ryan dominates us in Minnesota every time. He throws 80% fastballs and he pounds the strike zone, but we can't hit fastballs in the strike zone. So we get dominated. And this was really no different. He has a fastball and he has a sinker that's pretty much the exact same velocity as the fastball. And he throws those two pitches combined like almost 70% of the time. And again, when you have a team that just can't hit heat, like borderline down the middle, yeah, it's not going to be a recipe for success offensively in a night in and out basis. Flexen then came in. Chris Flexen came in relief. I mean, this is a best case scenario night for the Mariners, right? They come into town, first game of the series, they only use two pitchers and win by 6. That's they only use one reliever and they win by 6 runs. That's pretty much as good as it gets if you want to map out a game 1 of a series. So Flexing wasn't even great, but he didn't need to be because again, they were up 9-0. So also, can we talk about how ridiculous it was that we were getting fed? Follow me with this line of logic. Okay? Try and follow me here. We were told by a certain broadcast team, their logic was, hey, Tigers fans, I know we're down 7-0 right now, or 9-0, whenever they made the quote. But remember 2 nights ago when we blew a 9-0 lead in 2 innings? Well, that means the Tigers aren't out of it. What twisted line of logic is, hey, you know how we suck and gave up 8 runs in 2 innings? Well, maybe we'll score 8 runs in 2 innings. What kind of I think I tweeted out self-owning? What are you saying? That's just a preposterous line of logic. Hey, I know we are currently down by almost double-digit runs, but last time we were up by double-digit runs, we only won by 1. So maybe another team will be as bad as us for a day? I don't know. That it really probably upset me more than it should, but I found that logic to be uh, ridiculous. And it did not follow or track in my head whatsoever. Um, okay, let's get to the offense. So, like I said, Kirby's really good at his job, and this team was never going to have a ton of success against him just if he was even remotely hitting his spots and sticking to the game plan that he usually goes by, which he did, and he executed it well, and it led to nearly the entire Tigers lineup really struggling. Some exceptions to that: Carrie Carpenter had another 2-hit day. I just his at bats again. He started off slow, got hot, then got slow again, and now is kind of like trending upwards again. I think we should throw him out there every day. And I know one of the 2 hits he got was kind of like a cheapy bloop hit. I don't really care. I'm just going to take offense anyway and get it at this point in the season, especially with this team. Um, Javi Ofer, Harold Ofer, Vic Ofer, Cody Clemens replaced Miguel Cabrera, who had a couple of hits. That's always fun to see. Almost homered. Almost homered. No matter what the score of the game is, when you get that close to Miguel Cabrera history, like anything he does is like, oh, this is, especially when he hits a homer, you're like, oh, I don't know how many of these we have left. So he was close. He didn't quite get it out, but not always nice to see the big fellow with a couple of knocks. Jamer Candelario with the RBI single late. Willie Castro with a hit. Also, we had bases loaded, 1 out, and didn't score any runs in this game at one point. I mean, yeah, it's just it was so predictable to go from where we were last year, where we have been all year, revert right back to that after a weekend of kind of an offensive explosion. Also, it's important to note the Texas Rangers are not very good, and the Seattle Mariners kind of are. So, not doesn't take a rocket scientist really to figure out the the difference between the last weekend and the rest of the entire season. All right, we'll get into the rest of the offense. And then there was a small like team organizational move that doesn't really matter, but we're going to talk about it anyway. Right after this. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 3 of Locked On Tigers. Third and final segment. Yeah, sorry if you're watching on YouTube and you had to watch me blow my nose. I don't know what's happening to me this season. I really don't, but I'm really tired of it. So if it could stop, that'd be great. Okay, let's get into the rest of the offense. Really, all that's left with the offense is well, I've already reiterated a million times we can't hit straight pitches in the strike zone. It's really just Riley Green extending his hitting streak, get another knock, something fun to watch. I don't know. I don't even think he really looked that great at the plate. Like he had the RBI, which is always solid, but definitely didn't look the same as he has during the hitting streak. During the hitting streak, his OPS is through the roof. Right? He's been crushing the ball, and in most of those games, they're multi-hit games and extra base hits and everything. This game, not as I mean, like the triple, like that, the one hit was a triple, which is obviously solid and will help those numbers. But I didn't, whatever. I didn't think that his approach at the plate. He has a tendency to spike the ball, pull side, spike the ball into the ground. And obviously, the strikeout numbers is still something he's got to work on. Heat up and in, something he's got to catch up to. And then sometimes he'll just get too aggressive as well. Not necessarily like a pitch mix thing or like, oh, you need to work on this location. Just sometimes he'll just go through some stretches and some at bats where he just looks like he is way more aggressive than he usually is. And you're like, okay. And then he'll, go through a weak stretch where he's really patient and taking really solid at bats. And then you're like, well, where did this come from kind of thing. So just like maturing as a hitter and everything. But the OPS is almost back up to 690. And if he can get over 700, I know that's like a really minor victory and not even really one that we should probably be celebrating. But dang it, we're going to celebrate it this year because we only have one hitter with an OPS over 700 currently, and that's Harold Castro. I guess Carrie Carpenter technically has an 863 OPS, but that's a very, very small sample size. So the only person that's played here for a decent amount of time with an OPS over 700 is Harold Castro, 710. So I'm really hoping that we can just get some some offense. I just want consistent offense again. So that's probably it for the game. Like, look, this series was never gonna be something that a lot of people had faith in. I don't think. I don't think a lot of people were gonna go into this series going, "Oh, this is gonna go really well." But at the same time, we had a nice weekend. Maybe we could have stayed hot and came into it. Clearly, we didn't. Whatever. Let's just move on to tomorrow. No Matt Manning, not Matt Manning. No Matt Boyd in this game, which I think we might get this series. We might get him out of the pen at some point this series. So that'll be an emotional thing for sure. But he was born and raised in Seattle, and he seems really happy out there and everything. So happy for Matthew Boyd. I already gave a spiel yesterday about it. Regardless of my opinion of when he shouldn't have been traded. Great human being. Very, very, very honored to have had watched him and to have just had him wear an Old English D. Very good, very, very cool guy. Okay. Only other thing I want to talk about is the Illich Entertainment, the Illich Holdings, that the company technically put a new person in charge of this is the exact position name. Entertainment Senior Vice President of Communications and Broadcasting. So there you go. It's Ron Colangelo, I believe. I'm pronouncing the last name right. He's worked with Ilitch Holdings and whatnot, Ilitch companies, not Ilitch Holdings, but he's worked within the Ilitch companies for a while now, and he is the new position there. The big thing was like once this was announced, everybody was like, "Oh my goodness, change our booth," right? That's like the big thing. Everybody was like, "Oh, like we have a new person in charge of broadcasting for the Ilitch companies. Maybe that will lead to a change in the booth." I'm not going to come on here and just like drag our booth or drag everybody in or that broadcast for the Tigers or whatnot. I'm not gonna do that, but um, we have a new face in there. So if you are one of the people that is holding your breath, expecting some change, hoping for some change in the broadcast booth, um, I guess this offseason might be the time, but also he's worked with the company. Like this is like natural promotion for him. It's not like he was some outsider that had nothing to do with it. So maybe I don't know. Maybe maybe he likes the personnel they have because he's worked there before. I don't know. Not like a huge thing. I don't have anything else really to say about it, but just very much was a discourse going on Twitter, and I think it's important to notice when anything within this organization happens with a hiring or a firing. So there you go. If you're one of the I don't even know if that dude like is in charge of that. I don't even know if Bally and whatever like is like they could not even be related. And I could just like everybody could just be like, hey, fire Matt Shepard, and he could be like, I have no control over that. It's a completely different company. That might be the truth. I don't have an intense in what the heck word am I trying to think of? I don't have a super deep knowledge on the makings of the Illich companies, and except for three of them, and or um and or Bally Sports. So I don't know if that's something that this dude is ever going to have control over or not. But it was a big conversation on Twitter today, and it's impossible to just like ignore it. So there you go. I don't know. Do your own research. Figure out if if you think that this might lead to a change in the booth. That's neither here nor there for me. I think that's it, man. I really we're definitely in the dog days of the season, and I think there might be when September rolls around here by the end of the week, we might start seeing some more roster moves made, and we might give us some I don't know some new faces for the remainder of the season. But it is a really rough year, and we are in the last month of it. We'll get through the last month, and I'll be darned if after game 162 I'm not still going to be an idiot and you know miss it for whatever reason because I'm sick in the head. Thank you for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every day. For your next listen, check out the Ultimate Pro Football Preview 2022, an 8-episode extravaganza to get you ready for the NFL season. The local team experts of the Locked On Podcast Network, plus a betting angle from Lee Sterling of Locked On Bets, all combining into the ultimate NFL preview. Search for Ultimate Pro Football 2022 on your Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcast. That'll do it for us. We'll be back tomorrow. Same time, same place. You know the drill. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. I'll catch y'all then. Go Tigers, baby.